icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in this segment of the morning show today is Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang. Good morning, Sheriff. How are you today?
Good morning, Seth. Doing great. And yourself?
Oh, not bad, not bad. Now, are you in the office today? I think we've got a fan of yours over here in DeWitt County that wants to know if you're actually in the office today.
Yeah, we work pretty much 24/7. I'm always here, it seems like. Always working. Rarely do I get to take one of those good vacations down south.
Yeah, you're not going to, say, the Dominican Republic or anything crazy like that these days?
No, got a lot of work to accomplish.
Very good. Sheriff, we always appreciate you making time for us, for sure. Hey, I know I've been talking with, I had Chief Bross on a few weeks ago. I had Mrs. Vogt down in Bement on this week or last week, recapping what was a fairly extensive and involved exercise there in Piatt County. Your reunification drill, I know you all have been working on this a lot and looking forward to it. From your perspective, how did that go?
I thought it went very well. These drills were always trying to find where the breakdowns are, but we went through it and found a few little things that we want to change. But all in all, it was a great exercise. Went very smooth. It's one of those that we really appreciated all the parents that participated. In the end, we had I think 116 kids that participated in the reunification process.
Now, when it comes to, Sheriff, the reunification drill itself, what was the objective? What was the goal of this? What was the idea behind it? Give us, kind of the background, I guess. How about those things?
No, it's one of those. I'm very proud of our community for doing this because I don't think it's been done around the country really much at all. Law enforcement's trained for many, many years now how to deal with an active shooter, and there's been a lot of training on that. But what happens after that? Mm-hmm. How do we get the kids from the affected area to another location and make sure that they're reunited with the correct parents and have that accountability for the schools? So it's one of those that for the last probably year and a half, Piatt County and Macon County has been working to build these plans out. And to my knowledge, I think we were the first that actually ran a drill with this on March 27th with the men's schools. Yeah. So it was a big exercise. We had police. We had this particular incident. The scenario was much simpler, I guess you could say. It was a fire in the school that the fire department responded and said, the school's not able to keep the kids there, and called for evacuation. So we had EMS that was there. The emergency management agency is the one that kind of ran the drill, but school staff, we had staff from the local church, we had mental health professionals, we rely heavily on the public works division from Monticello and Bement to help us with the traffic patterns. That was a huge help.
Mm-hmm. And one thing you noted there, Sheriff, and I've heard this from not only Chief Bross, but Mrs. Vogt down in Bement as well, is, you hear about exercises like this, and with the the increase in violence within schools over the last couple of decades, a lot of people's minds, and even mine did initially when I first heard about this, was, oh gosh, this is a big exercise to respond to a school shooting. But that doesn't necessarily, have to be the case. Like, there's a lot of instances where, students and parents may have to be brought back together at a different setting other than the school because of whatever kind of emergency. Speak to that a little further.
Oh, absolutely. That's just one is the active shooter, but most of our schools in Piatt County have a railroad that runs very close to it, and you see around the country where there's an occasional derailment. And a lot of these cars are carrying chemicals that are hazardous and would call for an evacuation of a school. There's semis, there's tornadoes that may come through. It may be a fire in the school or a chemical spill in the school. So many, many different reasons why we may need to evacuate a school.
Very good. Well, Sheriff, when it came to kind of your agency's involvement in this, what did that look like from your perspective? What did you want to take away from this exercise? Do you mind speaking to that a little bit?
The biggest thing is communication. And we have 2 school resource officers that were on site and helped with that. You could only begin to imagine the amount of phone calls that our dispatch center would receive. So they're getting incoming phone calls. They're getting radio traffic from police, fire, EMS, and having to dispatch those. They might be having to call Ameren. So it is a huge amount of work for our dispatchers, which there may only be 1 or 2 in the room. And our dispatcher that participated in this exercise just did a phenomenal job trying to work all those roles and have that great communication with everybody involved. And then the traffic patterns and site security were the big things that we were trying to take away from this.
Very good, Sheriff. What did I miss in that reunification drill? I guess I'll ask this first before we move on. What's next? What does this process look like now that you've exercised it and you've kind of laid it out in terms of what it would look like in real time? Where do you go next with all of this?
Well, we debriefed it with all those that were involved, and we're going to continue to have monthly meetings with the Macon Piatt County Regional Office of Education. So we'll share our experiences with those from Decatur as well. But we're just going to continue to build the plan. We're working on a new notification system to better notify, whether it's the parents or all the role players or the people that have roles in an emergency, that something has happened so that nobody misses that notification.
Very good, Sheriff. Well, again, what did I miss in the conversation you want to put out there for us today?
Thank you to everybody that participated, especially the parents. This isn't something that we could have done without their help and their willingness to drive to Monticello and pick up their kids. So having them involved in this really did help us identify what we might need to change.
Very good. Again, Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang on the phone with me here for this morning. Sheriff, let's dive into, we've been talking about this for, it feels like months and months now. The Piatt County Sheriff's Office has needed radio upgrades. What's the latest with this?
It's a big project. It's continuing to move forward. We've made some pretty good updates. One of the biggest hurdles was getting a new FCC license, which was applied for and finally granted a couple weeks ago. But they're continuing to work building out the systems, and we've got some lease agreements that have been signed with some great partners, Top Flight Grain and the Village of Cerro Gordo and D-Land, working on one more to be able to place our new antennas at different locations around the county. And a lot of the equipment's been ordered. So it's moving forward. Really keeping our fingers crossed, working with the vendor, and hoping that maybe we have the system in place by this summer.
When it comes to that radio update, Sheriff, remind us why you needed this. What were the challenges you were facing with your old system?
Just the lack of being able to communicate within different agencies amongst ourselves with our dispatch center in certain areas of the county. And that's one of those that even in this exercise, which occurred between Piatt and Monticello, there was a lot of times when there was a lot of static on the radio. So just being able to consistently communicate with all those involved in an incident is what's so important.
So in terms of rolling out your new system there, Sheriff, what's going to be the advantage of the new one? Like, will it come with, obviously the coverage piece. Will there be any other advantages or perks to a new system in Piatt County?
Yeah, the biggest is that it'll do away with a lot of the dead spots out around the county. There's 3 sites that we currently run. Those will have updated equipment. But then in addition to those 3, we're going to add 6 new sites pretty much in each of the villages. So there should be that good coverage around the county. And then it'll not only allow law enforcement to talk better, but the fire departments as well. If they're handling a fire and they need EMS or communicating amongst themselves, still have that reliable communication.
Mm-hmm. Sheriff, was there obviously an effort like this probably is not inexpensive. So how about funding for this? Did you have to pursue grants? Was this something you had to save for and budget for? Like, what did that look like on your end of things?
Correct. We were able to get a grant that was done through the Department of Justice, and that we started that process about 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's been a long process.
Did you say, you might have said it and I missed it, what the total cost of this was going to end up being at the end of it all?
Approximately $650,000.
Yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Still a big undertaking, though.
It is a huge undertaking, but it's one of those that this will get all new radios for law enforcement throughout the county.
Yeah, will you have to outfit like vehicles and stuff like that with this new stuff?
Correct. Yeah, there'll be new in-car radios as well as new portables, which the timing has been great. Our portables, I think it's about 7 years the lifespan for a law enforcement radio, portables, and we're at that stage. Our radio batteries are not holding a full charge throughout the shift. We've got a lot of antennas that are breaking and clips on the radios that are starting to break. So it was a very timely project.
Gotcha. Well, Sheriff, I'll tell you what. Let's take a break here, my friend. Come back with some more. Are you on social media or anything like that where folks can follow along with the stuff you're putting out there for the community?
Yes, we are. We consistently update our Facebook page.
Very good. So find the Piatt County Sheriff's Office on Facebook. And again, that's Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang on the phone with us here this morning. More to come with the Sheriff on WHOW.
WHOW. Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Thursday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. We start the day in the red with corn, beans, and Chicago wheat futures. May corn opening 431 down 3/4. July corn down a penny, 444, and new crop December 470 down 1 1/4. May beans starting the day 1176 3/4 down 5 1/2. July beans down 6, 1189 1/4. And November new crop 1179 3/4 down a nickel. May Chicago wheat 555 1/4. That's down 3/4. July wheat 571 down 1 1/4, and September wheat 587 1/2 down 1 3/4. May bean meal 329.20. That's down 80 cents, and May bean oil 48.52 down 33 cents. Opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Thursday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
Here's another Clinton Save-A-Lot satisfied customer.
Charlene, and I'm from here in Clinton. They got the freshest meat in town, really. I've always liked their meat better than the other stores around. Prices are very reasonable, yes. Styles are a little bigger, and everything's easier to find here, and you know, the people are friendly here that work here.
And his owner, Dave Jackson, says,
and we hope to see you soon.
Allergy season is here, and our Warner Hospital and Health Services walk-in clinic inside our family medicine is here to help. No appointment, no problem. Find out more by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Ramey Miller from Run Deep Coaching. Take your power back. I do holistic personal and business coaching. My service is virtual, so we can visit no matter where you are. Find out more by clicking my icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. That's DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in this segment of the morning show is Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang. And Sheriff, tell me about a grant that you recently received from the NRA. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's one of those that I'm a big supporter of the NRA. They've got a dinner fundraiser every year, and a couple of years ago when I was attending that, I learned of a grant that the NRA has for law enforcement and different agencies such as the Boy Scouts and stuff, where they provide ammunition and range supplies to different applicants. And submitted an application 2 years ago, was selected, ended up submitting an application again this year, and they ended up selecting us, our department again, for a grant in which we received roughly about $900 worth of ammunition. So that's going to allow us to have a few more open ranges for our staff this year. It's expensive to go out and train with the firearms, but it is critical that we do that. So this will provide us some additional range time for our staff, that we can get them out there and run through some additional drills.
Now, do you guys have a range there in Piatt County for your folks to do or to use?
No, we do not at the Sheriff's Department, but we've got a great relationship with Monticello Police Department and Chief Ross.
Mm-hmm.
They are very kind in letting us use their range. It's very close to us, just down the street, actually. So we usually partner with them and train together whenever we can, and use their range.
Sure. Is range space an issue for law enforcement agencies? I know I think Farmer City over in DeWitt County here is setting up a range, and they're hoping law enforcement agencies can use it. They were citing just the fact that there's not a lot of ranges out there for law enforcement to use. How about that?
There's really not. There's some good private ranges that are around and let you use their range from time to time, but it's then you have that drive time that your staff is driving to, Champaign, Urbana, or Bloomington. So it is hard to find those ranges. I know there's a lot of departments that don't and have to rely on the few departments that do have a range. It's expensive. There's always the hazardous material. There's always the location. It's going to depend on the sound, the shooting disturbs some people from time to time, and so you're always trying to deal with that as well.
Well, Sheriff, when it comes to training in terms of your guns and such, how often do you have to do that? Like, does the state require a certain amount of training hours or anything on those?
Correct. The state requires an annual qualification, but it's just that, it's a qualification. It's not true training. The state only requires you to shoot back 15 yards, which really isn't a great distance. So we try to do a lot of different things, whether it's precise marksmanship, whether it's a faster draw, moving and shooting, use of cover. The big thing is de-escalation. If you can be behind cover and try and have that de-escalation and try to resolve it the best that you can without the use of firearms, that's always great. But sometimes you don't have that opportunity. It's driven a lot of times by the suspects in these incidents. So,
how often do you know how often your guns are drawn by your officers? Like in let's say a year, I would say that's a fair time frame.
That's really hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's the day and age of an officer going through their career without ever drawing it is long gone. It seems like it happens a lot more than most people would realize, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, Sheriff, again, just kind of in terms of training on guns and ammunition and such, how often are you cycling out your firearms and those sorts of things? Is that something like a vehicle where you, and other equipment where you've got to keep it up to date? How does that work?
Yeah, when I worked for Champaign, we ended up switching over to 9mm, and when I came to the Sheriff's Department here, I did the same thing as well. It was a cheaper round. The ammunition's a lot cheaper. So we did get new handguns about 3 years ago. They do last a very, very long time, but we usually do an annual check on the firearms to make sure the parts are good. There's certain parts that you do replace from time to time. But most of the time they do last for a significant period of time. It just depends on how long or how often you go shooting.
Sure.
We try to do quarterly, but then we always encourage staff to train more on their own as well.
Yeah, very good. Well, I kind of veered us off kind of down a different path there, Sheriff, but to get back to the NRA grant, you mentioned that's the second year that you've received that grant. What does the NRA do? Other types of grants that you've taken advantage of over the years? Anything come to mind there?
No, that's the only one that I'm aware of. I know, like I said, they do offer it to law enforcement as well as different organizations, such as I think the Boy Scouts and the 4-H. They do support those programs as well. So it's a great program that they have.
Very good, Sheriff. Well, hey, we've got a few minutes yet still with you this morning. Tell me about the recent ILEAS concert. I know this is something a lot of law enforcement folks look forward to. What is this, first of all? What's ILEAS, and what's the conference all about?
It's the Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System, and it's one of those that if there was a critical incident around the state, we can reach out to ILEAS, and they will send resources, whether it's equipment or staffing. With the upcoming DNC and RNC, would they be used up there? They went down to, my first experience was when I was at Champaign, we went down to Katrina and sent resources down there, and ILEAS kind of manages it. So every year they have a conference. It's law enforcement from around the state that meet for, this year it was 2 days of training. We had a great debrief from a shooting that a gentleman went through up in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, in an active shooter situation. So it was very interesting to hear his version of how things happened and what the experience, the learning things that we can take away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a great vendor show, a lot of equipment. It's nice to be able to meet the different vendors. They talked about trends in communication, drones. That's become a big topic in law enforcement. There's intelligence briefings by the ISP, internet crimes against children, wellness, ethics. So there's a lot of different breakout sessions that staff can go to.
Did you attend any of those?
I did. I went to the wellness and ethics. I went to the debrief from the Oak Creek, Wisconsin shooting from a couple years ago. Some of the communications. Some good information.
What'd you take away? Anything that you felt would be worth implementing within your agency or yourself personally that you kind of came away with from all that?
Yeah, we went to the drone one as well. It's one of those that seeing how it could benefit our county if we had somebody that wandered off into the woods or a field. The resources that it takes to search, especially a cornfield, would be manpower intensive, time intensive. So having a drone to be able to quickly go over a cornfield and locate an individual would be huge. So we're looking into it, see what the options are for us.
Sheriff Walker over here got a couple of those. Sheriff, you're gonna have to keep up with the Joneses over there in Piatt County here pretty quick.
Either that or just see if he's kind enough to come over and help us. And it's one of those that, with this conference, building those relationships is huge. And I think, the sheriffs especially, we know each other. We get together yearly. And it's a very tight-knit group. So if we ever need help, we're all quick to help each other. And, there's very lucky over there in DeWitt County. You got a great sheriff, a lot of experience. And he's always willing to help. So it's nice having those resources available.
Well, they got a good one in Piatt County too, Sheriff, and we appreciate you making time with us as always. Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang on the phone with us. Always good to have him on the program. Network News is next.
WHOW.